So my name is Khaazra, Maaranu, and I've been lucky enough to build a business from the ground up with a business partner and myself to doing billions of dollars in sales every single year. And so I've had the opportunity to see a ton of stuff out there, right? Every kind of business, brick and mortar, which is basically retail, like restaurants, grocery stores, liquor stores, doctor's offices, all the way to your online business who is coaching, whether they be e-commerce, whether they be drop shipping, whether they be selling a drop shipping course, all the way to your high risk online entrepreneurs. And I've had the opportunity as well to actually train a sales team, because I started off learning sales myself, like just thrown in the fire, and then I had the opportunity to train, to recruit and train other sales reps. And then some came in as well who were already trained, and just observing, how people interact with other clients is like extremely interesting to me. So I think that shady people will never freaking change. I really do believe that. And I know some religious people will disagree with me, because there are examples, in their religious books that say, this person was this and then they changed to this, and that person was this and they did this, right? And they're stories, right? Doesn't mean that they're true or false, but they're stories for us to learn from. And I will learn from any institution, any religious institution, any religious book. And so I disagree with them, but I agree with them. Because in those same books, people change once they've been re-educated, right? And in those books, what they don't look at it as education maybe, but they look at it as having a new belief system, right? Which has a set of principles, a set of rules, a set of like a culture and the way you do things, which then gives you a totally new mindset, right? Which is why, some people may say, you are, now that you have a mind of Christ, you are new, you are anointed, right? And so it makes perfect sense, but it's still a total re-education, and everything changes about the person, right? And so I think about companies, because, we have a government, but companies actually freaking run the country, right? Because they have so much power because of their economic prowess, right? Because of how much income that they have. And so the people who work in companies, we've all worked in companies at some point or another, whether we were getting paid or whether it was just volunteering. A company could be a church, even though it's a nonprofit, it's still a company, right? And the profits just go somewhere else, supposed to go somewhere else. And so companies take direction from the leadership, right? And I don't care if it's the media buyer, they would take the direction from the leadership. It could be your tech support people, it could be your sales people, it could be your copywriters, it could be your underwriters, it could be your risk analysts, right? Some people, whatever direction the leadership takes that company, that's the direction that people will follow. And I've seen good people go a different way because they were following leadership, because someone paid them a few more dollars, right? Can you imagine that? You have principles and that you abide by, and someone gives you a few more dollars and you just drop those principles and go in another direction. Isn't that crazy, right? But we know it's true. We know, we've seen people, you can get people who are paid off to lie, paid off to turn a blind eye, right? There's so many ways people can be paid. Some people are scared. Some people are fearful because they don't want to lose their money. They don't want to lose their job, right? Or maybe they don't want to, the repercussion of what can happen from speaking up and standing up, right? And so there's many different ways, but normally the people in the company follow wherever the leadership takes them, right? Some people follow presidents, right? A lot of people follow presidents. As a matter of fact, we almost have no choice. If you live in the United States or any other country, you almost have no choice but to follow that leadership to a certain extent. If you're in a school, right? In the education system, there's leadership in that. You have to follow it or you fail or you flunk, right? If you have a pastor, right? Whether they be male or female, you have to follow that leadership. If you're in the military, right? Boom, you got to follow that leadership. If you're in a mastermind, if you're in a marketing group, right? You have to follow that leadership. If you're in a home, right? You have to follow the direction of that leadership. And so you think about the various presidents we've had, right? And certain leaders lead certain ways, which some people blindly follow those leaders. It could be a good leader or a president who has just outwardly good intent, and people follow that, and it will repel certain people as well, right? And then you have other presidents who may not necessarily, who may have good intent, but maybe they share it in another way. And then you have a ton of people who follow that as well. But you can see that people follow various forms of leadership. You have the Democratic Party, people follow that. Then you have the Republican Party, people follow that. And it's crazy because they've changed philosophies over the course of years, but people follow it. And then, you have even your gangs, right? And gangs could be street gangs, they could be legal gangs. And the interesting thing that I found is that when you have these particular gangs or these factions or groups who operate in a way that doesn't benefit other people, they're always operating from a sense of ego and scarcity. I'm going to say it again. They operate from a position of ego and scarcity because, when you think resources are scarce, you got to get it all, right? Like you have to get it all. I have to hoard it all. Like I got to get this, right? And like they have a mindset of, I want it all. And you've seen some people say that, and I don't think maybe they really understand where they got that philosophy from or what they have adopted that's been indoctrinated in them, where I gotta have it all. Because if you gotta have it all, and they say, I'll do whatever I gotta do to get it, even though they're not being paid by a quote unquote boss per se, that they recognize, they are being led into believing that. And again, like I said, so I'm not the most religious person at all, but I do believe you can learn from any religion or any philosophy or any institution, so I don't discard any. And there's a saying, I think in the Bible, that says, what does it serve a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So basically what that means, I'm gonna say it again, what does it serve a man to gain the whole world? Riches, materialism, the money, the thing that you have to hoard, or the thing where you have to have it all, right? What does it gain that man or woman to get all of that and then lose their very essence, right? Lose their soul. And I see this happen in business. I see this happen in their personal lives, where especially in the financial world, right? You see it happen a lot, where it's like, I have to trick a person, I have to manipulate, right? You see it happen in sales, where people feel like they have to oversell or they have to misrepresent in some way, right? And it's a position of ego first, and then a mindset of scarcity, right? It's not enough to go around, so I got to get all of it now, right? I want it all kind of mindset. And then there's also the position that they take, whereas they feel like they have to win. And that's definitely a scarcity mindset, where you feel like, I gotta win. And it's interesting because that's a very short-lived kind of philosophy, right? There really is no winning. Have you ever won an argument with your significant other? And if you've won, at what expense? So, you get into a heated debate, especially as a man, with your significant other, with your wife, right? And you feel like you win, right? But did you really win, right? And what did you say to win, right? Like, what did you actually say to win? And then if you won, how does she feel after that, right? Typing something on my computer because I want to show it. I'm going to see if I can share something with you guys right here, if I can pull it up. I can't get it. Anyway, so interestingly enough, as I was saying, right, there really is no winning. And so there's a book that I read called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, which is, it's a little junky over here. This book right here, right? This is a must-read book by Simon Sinek. And it's a must-read book by Simon Sinek. I'm going to make sure that the volume picks up here. He actually read this book first to get the content for his book, right? This is a book called Finite and Infinite Games by James Carsey. So in the book, he talks about, even in the game of basketball, you know that there's a winner and a loser, but did you really win the game of basketball? Basketball has been around probably before you've been born and will be here after you die, right? And you didn't win the whole league, you won that game. You won that particular conference. You won the championship for that year. So even when you, these are things that we already know, we just don't think about sometimes. There's no team that you can say they won basketball, right? There's never a time where you can say, I won that argument, because you know that even though you've won, it's at the expense of a damaged relationship, depending on things that were said that you can never take back, right? You think about, even when we're doing, in my personal life, right? The folly of winning or thinking that you won when you tried to get away with certain things. And then you realize, oh shoot, I got away with it. But did you really win? Because no matter what happens with man's law, which you can do anything wrong today and just go hire any attorney and pay them, and they'll basically do whatever they have to do to try to protect you, right? But that doesn't mean a whole lot, even if you get away with it, because your conscience will always, your conscience is on another level, right? We've all been given a conscience that follows us no matter where we go, no matter where we are. You're right there with it, right? And so even if you get away with it, your conscience in some cases will eat you up. And in some cases, even if you've gotten away with that particular thing, right? Everything in the dark always comes to light. Everything in the dark always comes to light. And you even see some people who are successful in certain areas, and then later on, maybe they get some debility. I'm not saying people who are sick are cursed because they did something wrong, but sometimes you end up suffering in different ways. Even though you've gotten away with one thing, something else comes around to teach you a bigger lesson. So you never really win. And the other interesting thing is that even if you do get away with something, in today's time, with all the technology available, everything is traceable. So are you really going to get away with it? And for how long? There was a couple who, I think they were busted for, I want to say $44 billion in a fraud with crypto, right? Or Bitcoin. Let me see if I can find it. $44 billion. That's not it. Let me see if I can find this, right? Just to read the article for you. And they had gotten away with it for a while. Here we go. It says, okay, this one is just one article. It says over $7.7 billion stolen in crypto scams in 2021 and 4 other updates you should know, right? That's just one article, right? And then it says the biggest threat to trust in cryptocurrency, rug pulls 2021, cryptocurrency scams, revenue close to all-time highs. We're talking about the billions of dollars, right? And then there were some other articles that I saw, some that were like crazy. And I was like, man, is it that much money out there being stolen? And let me see. Okay, here we go. It says 2 arrested for alleged conspiracy to launder $4.5 billion in stolen cryptocurrency, right? And that's supposed to be untraceable, untrackable, unhackable, but yet people are getting caught. And these are things coming from the Department of Justice and just your regular mainstream media news outlets. So you can never really essentially get away with it, right? So you're not really winning. I don't care if you're selling, you're misrepresenting. I don't care if it's marketing, especially in the financial arena, like I said, or just being unethical, and especially things that basically trace back to crime, right? So what I want to say is this: if you're in business, or if you want to get in business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, because I see this a lot in the financial arena, even in the payment space, right? Especially in the payment space, where you have banks that are involved. And we already know how banks operate, or the institution of banking by itself, how it operates, right? And then you couple that in the payment space, man, you're talking about a lot of moving parts and a lot of messy things happening in the industry. And you have every and anybody coming in there to try to get a piece of it, right? And if you try to change it, who knows, you may get a bullet in your head, to be honest with you, because it's such a lucrative industry today. And I think some people, not all, one of the reasons they loved crypto or Bitcoin is because it didn't deal with the banking system, not because they wanted to do the right thing. Some people saw it as another way to, run that into the ground or to take advantage of that because of all the loopholes and blind spots that are in that. But anyway, let me get back to it. So especially in the payment space where you have a ton of people and entities coming into the payment space, and they come in maybe thinking one thing, of course they want to make money, but then they see how it's operating, and they now, because of carrots dangle before them, because of money, they forget their ethics, they forget their principles. It's a very shady industry, extremely shady, the financial and the payment space, just full of freaking unshady, unethical people. And the crazy thing about it? There's always attorneys involved, right? And I don't have to say anything new about that, but what I do want to say is that if you want, I would say start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. There's another book by the same author, Simon Sinek. I think he wrote the book called Start With Why, right? Matter of fact, there's a video you can watch called Start With Why, I believe it is, by Simon Sinek. And, think about how you want to be remembered in life, right? How you want your children to remember you? Because you can do all this stuff to make the money and do this and do that, but then you still have to, at the end of the day, you have to sit down at the table and look at your significant other in the eye. They may not know what you do. You have to look your children in the eye. They may not know what you do, but one day they will find out. Do you want that kind of discredit? Do you want that kind of shame? There's another scripture, I believe it says that the sins of your father shall be visited upon the son. The sins of your father shall be visited upon the son. And again, I'm not the most religious person, but that's true, right? So how I operate today will affect my son tomorrow. And how he operates will affect his son. That's why people talk about generational curses. It's because our behavior hasn't changed. Our mindset hasn't changed, right? We can still be shady people. So again, start with the end in mind. Let me know if this helps. Be good.